I saw my wife step out of my brother's truck at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the way she smoothed her hair told me everything I didn't want to believe. For a moment, I just sat there in my car across the street, hands locked on the wheel like it was a life raft. The porch light at Mark's place clicked on, then off again. Like a blink, I wasn't invited to understand. I was 59 years old, married 34 years, and suddenly I felt like a teenager spying on his own life. Mark is my younger brother by 3 years, the one who carried my boxes when I moved out at 19, the one who gave me a job when my first business collapsed. He'd always had that steady kind of decency that made you feel safe. So, the idea of him meeting my wife behind my back wasn't just suspicious, it was sacrilege. I told myself there was an innocent explanation. A surprise party, a family emergency, something small and ordinary I could laugh about later. But the truth is, when your heart wants to protect you, it lies on your behalf, and my heart had been lying for weeks. The first time I noticed was a text I wasn't meant to see. Ellen's phone lit up on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower, and Mark's name flashed above 3 words that felt like a punch. "Are you alone?" I didn't open it. I wasn't that man. Not yet. After that, I started noticing the little absences. Ellen running out for groceries and coming home with 2 bags and no receipt. Mark suddenly busy every Sunday afternoon when we'd always met for coffee. It wasn't one big betrayal. It was 1,000 quiet, coordinated omissions. I tried to confront Ellen once, casually. "So, you and Mark been talking much lately?" She didn't freeze, which would have been easier. She smiled, too quick, too neat. "Just checking on him," she said. "You know how he gets after work." I did know, and I also knew that wasn't the full truth. 2 weeks later, I followed her. I'm not proud of that. But pride doesn't do much for you when your marriage starts to feel like a house with new locks you don't have keys for. She drove across town to a little diner near the river. I parked 2 rows back, low in my seat, like a man trying to disappear from his own conscience. Mark was already inside. They sat in a booth near the back, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. I watched my wife reach across the table. She didn't touch his hand. She touched his wrist, briefly, firmly, like she was trying to anchor him. And Mark nodded the way a man does when he's agreeing to something heavy. I left before I saw anything worse, because sometimes your imagination is crueler than reality, and sometimes it isn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed 34 years of marriage like old home videos with the sound turned off, searching for signs I'd missed. Was I a good husband, a decent man, or just a reliable piece of furniture in a life she'd outgrown? I started hearing my father's voice in my head. "Men don't see the storm until the roof is gone." Dad said that after Mom left for a week when I was 14. She came back. But something never fully stitched itself together again. Maybe that's what I was actually afraid of. Not the affair, but the quiet part after it. A few days later, I found an envelope in Ellen's glove compartment. I didn't go looking. It was there in plain sight when I borrowed her car to pick up paint for the guest room. The envelope was thick, official. Inside were documents with Mark's name and mine, and words that made my chest go cold. Power of attorney. Medical authorization. My name beneath a line that said principal. Mark and Ellen had signatures in the margins. I sat in the driver's seat and stared until my vision blurred. I wasn't just being betrayed. I was being rearranged. When I got home, I didn't mention it. I watched her move through the house, humming softly, folding laundry like the world was normal. That humming hurt more than silence would have. The next meeting came a week later. This time, she didn't go to a diner. She went to Mark's office downtown after hours. I knew because I drove by, and because I was no longer capable of pretending I didn't need to know. His office was on the third floor of an old brick building. I took the stairs like a man climbing toward his own execution. The hallway was empty, too quiet. Through the frosted glass of Mark's door, I saw two shadows. Then I heard my wife say my name, not tenderly, not angrily, clinically. He won't go on his own, she said. Mark replied softer. Then we have to make him understand what's at stake. I pushed the door open. The silence that followed was absolute. Ellen turned so fast, her chair scraped the floor. Mark stood, hands up, not defensive, but bracing. On the desk between them was a folder labeled with a logo I recognized, a neurologist's clinic. "What the hell is this?" I asked. My voice sounded older than I felt, older than I wanted to be. Ellen's eyes went wet immediately. Not guilt wet, fear wet. "David, please sit down." "I'm not sitting down." Mark took a step towards me. I flinched, because my mind was still locked in the story of betrayal I'd been feeding myself. Then Ellen said the sentence that split my life into before and after. "You forgot your appointment twice." I stared at her. "You never told me I had an appointment." She shook her head slowly. "I did 3 times. Mark opened the folder. He wasn't my brother in that moment. He was a man trying to save someone who wouldn't let himself be saved. "Dave," he said gently, "you've had some memory gaps. Ellen's been tracking them for months." I laughed, sharp, defensive. "Everybody forgets things. Not like this." They showed me notes, dates, little logs of strange moments I'd dismissed, calling my grandson by my son's name, leaving the stove on, getting lost on the drive to my own warehouse. I wanted to argue, but my body started betraying me in new ways. My hands trembled. My breath came shallow. Ellen reached for me again. This time she took my hand fully. "We didn't want to scare you," she whispered. "We wanted to get you help before you built a wall against it." "And you asked Mark?" "He's the only person you listen to when you're scared." The words landed with a terrible tenderness, because she was right. I'd always trusted Mark's calm when mine ran hot. I looked at the power of attorney forms again. The cruel story I'd written in my head began to dissolve, replaced by something more painful, love that had gone underground to survive me. "I thought you were having an affair," I said quietly. Mark exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for weeks. "God, no." Ellen let out a sob that sounded like relief and exhaustion braided together. "We met at the diner because I didn't want you to feel ambushed," she said. "We were planning how to talk to you." "And the late night at your house?" Mark rubbed his forehead. "I just gotten the preliminary report." She begged me to tell her what it meant. I sank into the chair. The room tilted slightly. Not from dizziness, but from the shame of realizing how quickly I'd abandoned both of them in my mind. I wish I could say that was the end of the story. Neat revelation, clean apology, a graceful march into the light. But life doesn't resolve itself like that. The diagnosis came 2 weeks later: mild cognitive impairment with a high risk of progression, possibly early-stage dementia. The doctor used careful words, but I heard a gunshot in every syllable. That night, I sat in my backyard with Mark. We didn't talk much at first. The winter air was brittle and honest. "I'm sorry," I said. "For what?" "For thinking you could hurt me like that." He looked at me, steady as ever. "You were scared. So were you." He nodded once. "Yeah, I was." Ellen joined us with 3 mugs of coffee, decaf, because she'd already started paying attention to the small things that might keep me steady. She sat beside me like we were beginning again. Not young, not naive, just determined. "I never wanted secrets between us," she said softly. "Then why not just tell me?" She hesitated. "Because love, at our age, isn't just emotion. It's strategy, because you've spent your whole life being the strong one, she said, and I needed you to hear this from more than fear. In the months that followed, I learned a hard truth. The worst betrayals aren't always the ones done to you. Sometimes they're the ones you imagine, because imagining gives you someone to blame. It's easier to be angry than terrified. I still have bad days. I still lose words sometimes and find them later in the wrong rooms of my mind. But I go to my appointments. I take the medication. I let my wife and brother help me without turning it into a battle for my ego. And when I see Ellen and Mark talking quietly in the kitchen, I don't feel the old sickness anymore. I feel something humbling, a gratitude so sharp it almost hurts. Here's the lesson I'm learning. Late, but thankfully not too late. Suspicion can feel like self-protection until you realize it's just fear wearing armor. If you love people who have earned your trust, don't write their ending for them in the dark. Turn on the light, ask the hard questions, and let love look like teamwork, not just romance. Because sometimes what looks like betrayal is actually the plan to keep you here long enough to say thank you.